LFB. Those three letters were synonymous with this team and with one quarterback in particular. A man who was looked at by the league as someone who was fighting for his very last chance at becoming an NFL starting quarterback, who now, after the season that he's had, being a comeback player of the year finalist, has probably worked himself into a very lucrative contract. The team wants him, and he said on multiple occasions that he wants to come back. The question is, though, is it going to happen? I think it's a foregone conclusion. But all that and more will be talked about on a new episode of West Side Sports with your boy, West Side Izzy P. Let's get to it. Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy, Izzy Phantasmo, and we are back with another video live on West Side Sports. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a great day today. I hope everybody's having a good day today. I know I'm having a great day today. Today's going to be a fun video. We are going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You already see it on my chest. And the reason we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is because we are getting ready for free agency. We are getting ready to sign some people on, let some people go, and figure out what we need in life. But the one thing that we need, most importantly, is a quarterback. And what other way to talk about quarterbacks than a guy who pretty much has had a up and down career up until this point, who pretty much resurrected his career in Tampa and possibly worked himself into a very lucrative contract following this past season. We're going to be talking about Baker Mayfield and what lies ahead for him and the Buccaneers. But before we do all that, I need you to do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that like button. Comment down below. Let me know what you want me to talk about next, who you want me to discuss, and where we could take it from here. And also, man, hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to build this entire page up, and I want y'all to be a part of it. So take this as an invitation. Join me on this journey of building West Side Sports up from the ground up so that we could be a very happy football family. But with all that being said, I'm glad y'all are here. I'm glad y'all are taking time out of your day to watch this video. Let's go right into it. Baker Mayfield. That name is polarizing. That name is synonymous with a lot of things that have happened. Some commercials, some controversies, some good times, some not so good times. Like I said, a very up and down roller coaster style career for the man. But he has been a lightning rod ever since he got into the league. And even before that, while he was in Oklahoma, he was a lightning rod for just talking points and talking heads alike. But we're not going to focus in on the past. We're not going to touch all that. We're going to talk about the here and the now and what lies ahead in the future. So as a lot of y'all may have followed, Baker Mayfield has had a career that we could say was his best career year. It was a year to say it was his finest one ever. Baker Mayfield was a man who was on the outskirts of free agency last year, and a lot of people, pundits, analysts, media heads, fans alike, were looking at this guy, and they pretty much all threw him off to the side. Baker Mayfield was pretty much on the outside looking in when it came to starting quarterbacks. He was not even looked at as a starting quarterback, let alone a franchise guy at that. He had lost that already. He was supposed to be the franchise guy in Cleveland. He lost that term. He lost that right, supposedly. And now he was pretty much going to be a bridge quarterback or a high-level backup quarterback. That's how bad things got for Baker Mayfield heading into this season. He signs a one-year, $4 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with $4.5 million in incentives. And this was pretty much a prove-it deal for Baker Mayfield to see if he could revive his career and get himself back on track and get himself back into the conversation of being a starting NFL quarterback. And boy, oh boy, did he prove himself. Did he bet on himself and cash in the biggest way possible. Baker Mayfield had one of, and I'll say it again, the best years that this that we've seen out of him going into an NFL season. This man threw for over 4,000 yards for the first time in his career, had a career high in touchdowns, completion percentage. He won a division championship. He made his very first Pro Bowl, and he had, I believe, his best performances in the playoffs. But don't take my word for it. Let's go down into the stat line and let's check it out for himself. Let's see how good Baker Mayfield was this season alone. To finish out the 2023 season, Baker Mayfield passed for 4,044 yards, 28 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. He had a 54.3 QBR, a 94.6 rating, and a 64.3 completion percentage. Again, a career year in completion percentage, passing yards, and touchdowns. He joined Tom Brady as the only quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards, 20-plus touchdowns, and less than 10 interceptions in their first year as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer quarterback. And in the playoffs, he threw for 626 or 682 yards, passing, 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He decimated the Philadelphia Eagles 32-9, throwing for about 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And then he throws for about 370 with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the game versus Detroit. He had literally a comeback player of the year-esque type of year with Tampa Bay. And speaking of comeback player of the year-esque type of play, Baker Mayfield was a finalist for the NFL's Comeback Player of the Year award. And I'm not going to harp on it too much. I'm not going to get into it, but I do think he got robbed of that award. I know it's already passed, it's gone, it's done, but let's be honest. Joe Flacco played, 5-6 games with the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield played 17 games. Baker Mayfield had over 4,000 yards passing. Joe Flacco had about maybe, close to 2,000 yards passing. Yeah, he threw multiple touchdowns in each game that he played, but he also threw multiple interceptions in each game that he played. Baker Mayfield had about 10 interceptions the entire season. Again, I'm just saying, I'm not going to harp on it, but Baker should have won the award. That's just me. Not going to get into it anymore. But needless to say, the passing yards, the touchdowns, the interception, completion percentage, the QBR, the rating, all of that statistically enough shows that he had his best year. But let's look at what he did with Tampa Bay. He took a team that started hot. They came into the first quarter of the season 3-1. They were leading in the NFC South. Then they hit this skid where they dropped their last 5 of 6 in the middle of the year. So they end up going into December 4-7. And they pretty much have to win out every single game to guarantee a playoff spot. And Baker Mayfield and company, after the game, I believe it was versus Indianapolis, he kind of called the team out look, I don't know who I got to bring along, but we got to get this thing going. And if I got to bring people along to get this thing going, I will. But we got to play a little bit more pissed off. And they started doing that. They win their first game versus Carolina. They win their second game versus Atlanta in Atlanta. They go into Lambeau Field, and Baker Mayfield has his best statistical game of the year as a Buccaneer. He throws a completely perfect game. And by perfect, I mean he had a perfect passer rating of 158.3 in Lambeau. He was the first visiting quarterback to throw for a perfect passer rating ever. The only other person to have a perfect passer rating in Lambeau was Aaron Rodgers while he was a Green Bay Packer. And then I'm going to leave it at that. But also, he then beats a playoff caliber Jacksonville Jaguars team at home. So that's 4 straight games. And not only is that 4 straight games that they had to rattle off, but now they are pretty much 8-7. They can clinch the division at home versus New Orleans. They end up dropping that game. They go 8-8. They go into Carolina in a must-win game. They win this game. They win the division. And they go into the playoffs. They lose this game. The winner of the Falcons-Saints game was going to win the division. The Buccaneers hold out the Panthers. They shut them out 9-0 in Carolina. They end up winning the division. and they host a playoff game versus the number 5 seed Philadelphia Eagles, an Eagles team that started hot. They were 10-1 to start the year. They end up falling off at the end. They would end up losing their last 4 or 5 or so, or 5 of 6. They would end up limping into the playoffs, and Baker and the Buccaneers ended up completely dominating in that game. They won, again, 32-9. Baker, 337, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. One of his best games in the playoffs. And his playoff run would end in Detroit by losing 23-31 to the Lions. But his success wouldn't stop there. He would end up going to his very first Pro Bowl. He would star in the Pro Bowl games and in the Pro Bowl itself by winning the Offensive MVP award, and again, the NFL Comeback Player of the Year finalist award. So it's been one heck of a one heck of a career year for Baker as a whole. And there was a lot of narratives. There were a lot of things that were going against Baker going into the season. A lot of people were pretty much still stuck on narratives of the past, that he wasn't a very good leader in the locker room. He wasn't a very good locker room guy. That narrative got shut down quick because I believe in week 4, was it? Week 4 or week 5, the players came together after playing the first few weeks in the season. They came together, they voted, and Baker Mayfield was voted by the players as their team captain moving forward. From there, all the players rallied around him. Another narrative, he doesn't get along with wide receiver ones. And wide receiver 1 for the Buccaneers, none other than Mike Evans, who at this point had consistently gotten 1,000 receiving yards per season. So he had 9 straight in a row, and everybody's looking at Baker Mayfield going to Tampa like, well, Mike Evans ain't gonna be getting that 10th year in a row, but he did. Check this stat line out for you. Mike Evans finished out the year with 79 receptions, 1,255 receiving yards, his 10th season over 1,000 yards receiving, 13 touchdowns, which tied the league for first in touchdowns when he had a 15.9 yard average per reception. Statistically saying, this was Mike Evans' best season. His best season since, I believe, 2018 or so. So, the narratives just kept on falling through the cracks. They kept on just falling away. Baker Mayfield rewrote his narrative playing in Tampa. And now the question is, does Baker Mayfield re-sign with the Buccaneers going into free agency? I believe he does. And one thing that proves to me that he does is that after the season played out, Dave Canales, the former offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, would end up leaving to be the new head coach for the Carolina Panthers, and the Buccaneers would go on a hunt for a new offensive coordinator. And some of the guys that they were looking at were formerly they worked formerly with Baker Mayfield. Guys like Alex Van Pelt, Liam Cohen, who, by the way, they ended up signing Liam Cohen as the offensive coordinator. And the Buccaneers showed a little video online of when Baker and Liam kind of saw each other at One Buck Place. And you could tell that these two guys have chemistry. Liam was there in Los Angeles when Baker came for those 5 games when he joined the Rams late last year after he was picked up on waivers. So there's continuity between Baker and Liam Cohen. And Liam actually uses the same type of offensive scheme that Dave Canales was using in Tampa when he first came over there as an offensive coordinator. So the offensive scheme is going to be the same. You got a guy who's worked with Baker before, who's spoken highly of him, who actually said that having Baker Mayfield on the team was literally a sticking point for him to join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If that doesn't sell you that Baker is going to be the guy for the Buccaneers, I don't know what will. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's just say the Buccaneers don't re-sign Baker Mayfield. Let's say that they're off by a few mil on the deal and he decides to, you know what, I'm just going to test myself in free agency, see who wants it. Because before this time, last year, he only had a few options. You had Tampa, which we all know what happened there. You had the LA Rams, who wanted to bring him back but weren't able to because of cap space. And the Baltimore Ravens were in a bit of a pickle. You see, the Baltimore Ravens, they didn't know what was going to happen with Lamar Jackson, so they actually contacted Baker Mayfield and wanted him to fill in the gap while they tried to figure out what was going to happen with Lamar Jackson. But ultimately, Baker, he didn't want to be a backup. He wanted to have a chance to compete and be a starter, which is why he didn't go to Baltimore. Rather, he went to Tampa, and we are where we are. Nowadays, this year, it's a lot different. There are teams out there who are going to be needing a quarterback. You had the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just released Mitchell Trubisky, and you got Mason Rudolph, who is now an unrestricted free agent. Their only quarterback on the roster is Kenny Pickett, and maybe the Steelers go after Baker Mayfield. Maybe they try to contact him, see if he wants to try and compete for that starting job, and who knows, they might use the whole thing of like, hey, look, we know Cleveland did you dirty. We want you to play for us, and you'll get a chance to get that revenge on them twice a year. That could work. Or the Atlanta Falcons, for example, NFC South rivals. They got a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator who also were with Baker Mayfield while he was in LA, who are very familiar with him. They could try and make a move and go after him as well. And not only that, you look at the talent in Atlanta, you got Drake London on the outside. You got Kyle Pitts, who is a hybrid tight end wide receiver. You got Bijan Robinson as the star-studded running back. And then not only that, you have possibly Cordell Patterson, who could be making a return with the Falcons. So they have weapons. They have a very young roster. Something that's very enticing for any quarterback to, make his name known and really stamp himself as a premier starter, someone who could really take a team to the next level. Do I think that's going to happen? I would be shocked to see that happen. Ultimately, in my eyes, I think Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they work something out. Bruce Arians, the senior advisor for the team, former Super Bowl winning head coach for the Buccaneers, he said he's confident in general manager Jason Light to make something happen, to bring back Baker Mayfield, to re-sign him to a deal, and not only that, but to re-sign other key pieces that are going to be free agents. Mike Evans is a free agent. Antoine Winfield Jr. is a free agent. Possibly extend Tristan Wirfs, bring back Levante David, and then build through the draft, which Jason Light has had a very, very successful time doing. So there is a lot of confidence coming out of Tampa Bay right now saying that Baker Mayfield will be back with the team. And you got to wonder, how much is it going to be? Is he going to get that $40 million that everybody is kind of alluding to that he could possibly be getting? Will he be getting less than that? Because he has said that he would be willing to make some sacrifices to make sure the band is back together. So does he take 40 mil? Does he take 35, 36, 37? What I've always alluded to is that they could possibly pull the Geno Smith style deal, 2 to 3 years, by like 35.5 to 37.5 mil, 39.5 at max. I feel like that would be the best bet for Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers to really work something around and really be able to get key pieces back, get everybody back together, and really build them on the momentum that they had from this past season moving forward. So I look at it like this. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, that could be a lock. It could be a lock. I think it's a lock. I would be shocked to see Baker or the Buccaneers miss out on this opportunity to really bring everybody together again and really move forward and see how far this team could go. But enough about what I think. What do y'all think? You think Baker Mayfield stays with the Buccaneers, or do you think he goes elsewhere? Who picks him up? How much do they pay him? And what else can we see happen? Do you think the Buccaneers go into the draft and pick up their franchise guy, or do you think they might just, find somebody in free agency if Baker Mayfield decides to go elsewhere? These are a lot of questions that we have, but I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what y'all think down below in the comment section. Hit that like button and also hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell too while you're at it. That way you're notified when a new video comes out. It's your boy, Westside Izzy P, Izzy Phantasmo. It's Westside Sports. Stay locked in, stay tuned. Got another video coming to you real soon. Peace.
I can't go back. Tryna live my own